The NFL just wrapped up Week 7, and as you know, every Monday I record, and every Tuesday you get your most favorite segment of the week. It's Sports Talk NFL Recap. Today. Welcome back to another video. As you know, my name is Cameron Simpson. As always, we're here talking about a great deal of things, but starting with NFL, a week recap. I'm so excited to have you guys here with me. But before we begin today's video, as always, please hit that big red subscribe button. I've had many supportive comments and many people supporting the channel lately, and those of you who are subscribed, thank you so much. But there's a big portion of you who watch my videos that aren't subscribed. So make sure, even if you think you're subscribed, make sure that button is gray. And if you know you're not subscribed, hit it. Because if you like these types of videos, they're up almost every week. And hit that like button no matter if you're subscribed or not. And let's keep this video going. Comment down below on our discussion today. And let's get started. Week 7, the NFL was full of many storylines and many weird things, to be honest with you, that happened this week and that we really should talk about, because look, it's not every NFL week that we get to see one of the NFL's dynasty teams, one of the most well-known teams, a 6-time Super Bowl champion team, lose very badly 2 weeks in a row. They lost to the Broncos last week. They've lost to some pretty big teams, and we're going to really talk about so many of these things that have happened. And let's just get started right now. The Steelers. What a great story it has been this year for that team and that organization. Just going out really well and just performing at their top and at their abilities. They have performed so well. One of the only teams that have actually won that amount of games. And I mean, look, it's great to see. I'm not going to lie. 27-24 win against the Titans is a victory nonetheless. They're 6-0. One of the only teams 6-0, and the Titans aren't doing half bad either. They got their first loss. This was a team, these two teams were great. And I just really want to focus on the Steelers. Are they the real deal? Are they going to go in and compete for a Super Bowl? And I'm going to give you my honest opinion here on this one. I think yes. I think they're a playoff team that can go in and compete for a Super Bowl. And the division they're in is got a few bad teams, but it has a lot of good teams as well in that division that are all going to really compete for the playoffs, are going to compete for a playoff position. And it all matters on how, when, and what happens when you go in and perform. So, number one, how do you respond in the playoffs? How do you normally respond in a playoff game? I mean, the Steelers normally sometimes choke in the playoffs, or get bad calls in the playoffs, or get nasty things their way and bad luck in the playoffs. So to say that they're going to be a real deal with this history is never, it's tough. Steelers as an organization has a few Super Bowls in their back pocket, just, you know, in their back pocket. They definitely got some Super Bowls. But we have to also put in, as of recent, I'm not saying forever, but as of recent, they find some ways to lose Super Bowls. They found some ways to lose big playoff games. And when you find ways to do that, it's always a concern and factor when you really look at it in the grand scheme of things. But I think this is a different team this year. The other thing is regular season record and regular season beating good teams. The Titans are a heck of a good team. They are putting on they were 5-0 going into this game. They lost to another 5-0 team that's now 6-0. But looking at this big picture, their record so far is 6-0. Their team so far is 6-0. Their coaching is 6-0. All of this goes into what happens next. And honestly, this team has shown over and over and over again that they're going to be a consistently decent team. They're not going to be the worst team in the NFL. They're going to be a decent team this year. And a 6-0 is a pretty impressive record. Not even Super Bowl defending champs are 6-0 this year. So having that on your shoulder and having that there is good. Do I think they'll be undefeated? No. They'll be handed a loss in the next few weeks. And their matchups coming up, they're going to be tough. But they will continuously get better. And they will be in the playoffs. And are the Steelers the real deal? Are they a Super Bowl winning team? Yes. So watch for them to continue to grow through the season. But what a game they had, the Titans and the Steelers. I mean, that's a game that, like, if you missed it, you should go and rewatch. It was a pretty decent game. A game that, well, if you're a 49ers fan and a Jimmy G fan, that was a pretty decent game. But if you are not a good game at all. For the Patriots, they fell to the Chiefs by just, it was tough to watch that one. I mean, they didn't fall to the Chiefs. Same colors, but they didn't fall to the Chiefs. They fell to the 49ers. Jimmy G and his group beat them 33-6. The Patriots now fall the 49ers are 4-3. The Patriots are 2-4. Not a great record for them. And for the 49ers, it was a great game. They pieced it together. This team, in my early predictions, Super Bowl, yes, that was my very early predictions, as you guys know. Go check those out if you missed them. But they were my very early predictions. As the season develops, my current Super Bowl champion, my current team that can really go all the way is the Chiefs. Again, they just continue to show every week that their team, especially this week, the Chiefs shown that their team can develop and develop and develop. And it's not just the offense, it's their defense. So they have I think that after this week, they have one of the top defenses in the league. But, I mean, it's just such a great job by them. And I mean, let's just show you what happened in this game. We'll give you some of the statistics of the whole game. The first quarter, San Francisco scores a touchdown, 7-0. Patriots are not able to respond. The second quarter, San Francisco scores another touchdown, and New England gets a field goal. Third quarter. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm messing this up. Sorry. Never mind, we're not going to use that one at all because I don't think that's right. The third quarter, another touchdown. The fourth quarter, they scored a field goal, and the Patriots scored nothing to bring it to 33. Hold on. Reset. First quarter, they scored 7 points in total for San Francisco. The second quarter, they scored 16 points in total. The third quarter, they scored 7 points. And the fourth quarter, they got 3 total to round up to 33%. And for New England, it was 3 points in the second, 3 points in the third. Eventually, Cam Newton got pulled out of that game. The Patriots have had multiple opportunities to rebuild the team. They had an opportunity to keep Tom Brady in the organization. They just need to give him. They had an opportunity to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. They traded him away to the 49ers. And what did they get out of that? That trade for Garoppolo was supposed to keep Brady in New England for the rest of his career. That didn't really work. He's down in Tampa Bay enjoying the warm life and enjoying not just the warm life. He's enjoying the fact that he's winning down there. His team is a playoff-bound team now. Up here in the north, where the weather was very chilly this week, Tom Brady, the New England Patriots, really need to work this out. They need to work this out, and they need to somehow get out of this hole that they dug themselves. They dug themselves this hole. They gotta get out of it. Somehow, some way. They need to get out of this. Tom Brady leaves. They draft up Cam Newton. I mean, they had opportunities to draft up so many other guys than Cam Newton. Cam Newton's at the bottom of everyone's list, and they picked him up. When I found this, I actually thought it wasn't a bad idea. If you remember that video that I reacted onto it, Cam Newton to the Patriots, it was one of the best days for a Patriots fan because now we know who's going to be quarterback in our team, and it's not going to be Jared Stidham. It's going to be MVP quarterback, someone that's made it to the Super Bowl, a good quarterback. But he just seems the last 2 weeks, granted he had the COVID, so you can't put the Chiefs game on him. And I'll even give him the Broncos game. It's his first game back, limited practice. The teams had limited practice. So you know what? I'll even give him the Broncos game. I'll even give Cam Newton the Broncos game because of the whole COVID. This week, they should not have lost. A team in the 49ers, which is nonetheless a good organization and a good team, but at least you should have competed with them. You should have not have gotten blown out like this. And number one, even with the COVID situation, you shouldn't have lost to the Broncos. Did you see what the Chiefs did to them? You're going to have to be... You lost to the team that the Chiefs blown out. And come playoff time, if this team even qualifies for the playoffs, they're going to have to play a team like the Chiefs. And that is not going to go down well. We're not going to beat the Chiefs as a Patriots organization. The Patriots organization needs to build up this organization. They need to build up these blocks. And right now, after what we've seen, and granted, yes, we'll give them COVID. We'll give them the COVID for 2 games. I'll put the COVID asterisk on 2 of the games. Still, even with COVID, should you have lost to the Broncos? Think about that. Even though I'm giving them the Broncos game. Should you have lost to the Broncos with COVID? Should you have lost to that team, even with COVID in your camp? Should you have lost to them? And I know all of you fans at home know that answer. All of you fans at home are listening and saying, no, we should not have lost to the Broncos, even with COVID. Now, a team in the 49ers who is decent, should you have lost to them? Maybe. Actually, yes, you could have lost to them. You should never lose to anyone, but you could have lost to them because they're a slightly better team than you, granted the situation you're in right now. But should have you gotten blown out 33-6? No. It should have been a 33-30 game. It should have been a somewhat close game, maybe even an overtime game where you could win. It was a terrible game by the Patriots. And they need to somehow find a way to fix their organization, find a way to pick things back up. Find a way. And that's all I'm asking from that organization, for them to find a way, for their ownership and Bill Belichick to be able to draft players that can compete. Do I think that Cam Newton is the main issue here? No. And I know everyone's going to go to Cam Newton right away because he's the quarterback. He's the star of the show. Everyone's going to go to him and say that's the issue. And it's every sport. It's if you have a star on your goalie on the hockey team and you let up bad goals, you're going to be the one that people eye. You're going to be the one because you were the star of the show. Or if you're the center and you lose multiple face-offs, and you're going to be the one because you're in the spotlight. You're in the spotlight. If you're doing like me, if I'm doing this video right now and I mess something up, even though it wasn't me who messed it up, it was like my camera glitched or something, I'm the star of the show. I'm going to be the center point for that thing. I'm going to be the center point. You're going to look at me and say, you did that wrong. If LeBron James gets a bad pass and he couldn't get it in the net, everyone's going to look at him. You messed that up, LeBron. You messed that shot up. You couldn't get it into the hoop. Who cares? You're an MVP. You should be able to get that in the hoop, no matter what the circumstances are. That's a correct assumption. And we'll even go to baseball for a second. We'll even go to baseball. You're a pitcher, and you're trying to throw somebody. You throw a ball as a second baseman to first base, and first base misses the catch. Everyone's going to look at you and say it was a bad throw. Even though you could, and it could be vice versa too. The catcher could have made a bad catch, and they could say it was a bad throw. But back to football. Cam Newton's the one that's everyone looking at. But there's many other schemes into this, and there's many other things. N'Keal Harry, he is out concussion protocol, and knowing that he has had concussions throughout his whole life, and as a child, it must be tough for him. But he is getting worse by the day. They don't have any good receivers. And Julian Edelman is a good player, but he can't catch the ball recently. He just keeps deflecting it. And do I think that's his fault? No, I think it's Cam Newton's fault in that one. Is Cam Newton part of the blame? Definitely. But do we have a strong backup? Can we really afford, Patriots Nation, do you guys think that we can afford to get rid of Cam Newton and play Jared Stidham after you've seen what Stidham did, even in that game. If you think that you can afford to put Jared Stidham in, then be my guest. We'll put Jared Stidham in. I honestly don't think we should go with Cam or Jared Stidham. I know we've seen Hoyer and he made that mistake, and yes, that's his fault in the game versus the Chiefs. Would I put Hoyer in? Would I put Hoyer in a game just to see how he could do? Just to see, with some practice, with some development, could Hoyer do better? I would put Hoyer in over Stidham. In the next 2 games, if we continue to lose and we're continuously just out of the division, I would try to work with Hoyer and Stidham, get them better, put them in games, and eventually, at the end of the year, say goodbye to Cam Newton. Maybe we try to draft a quarterback. That's got to be something we need to think about. Quarterback is a problem, but it's not our main problem. Cam Newton, we can work with Cam Newton, guys. I support Cam Newton. I want him to stay on this team for a while, and just because he made 2 bad games, you give him weapons. You give him a reason to be on this team. The reason he's on this team, number 1, is there's no other options. And he's not going to get any other options until he wins the Super Bowl with the Patriots, which could never happen. But what he needs to do, we need to either draft up a quarterback and develop our quarterback if we really don't believe in Cam Newton, or we start getting some weapons. We start trading. We start getting free agents into this team. And we really start getting weapons. We have Julian Edelman. He's a weapon. But let's get some more weapons. Let's get a running back like Alvin Kamara. Let's get a tight end that can really, like Travis Kelce. Let's get a tight end like him. Let's get a tight end that can really help the game. And we need that. We really need that development. And we need someone that can actually do that on a consistent basis. Quickly, before we go on to our next topic, Odell Beckham Jr. is out for the Browns. This is a very big loss. They had a pretty good season, and part of that's because of Beckham. Not going to lie. Part of that's because of him. Beckham is pretty decent, and he's not the worst player in the world. Part of the reason we're good right now is because of Odell, and it's because of Odell Beckham Jr., and part of the Browns' problem, I think, is quarterback. I think part of the problem is just developing a team. But don't you worry, guys. Odell is out for now. Will he be back? It's still a question. We'll find out what happens later on as time develops. But Odell and Browns, hopefully he can come back because I think he's a big part of their offense. But I think they'll still win games as consistently. Probably not. Before we leave, I do have one more topic I want to bring to your attention. Cincinnati did lose to the Browns again into that game. And, I mean, look, the Browns and Cincinnati, it's a pretty good rivalry. They played already twice this year. I think it's our first repeat game. And, I mean, I think it looks good for the NFL. You know, but the first time on Thursday Night Football was the 2 worst teams of history. And now it's 2 competitive teams that could really go out there. Now, Cincinnati has a quarterback in Joe Burrow. And a few weeks ago, I talked about Joe Burrow's kind of stuck with Cincinnati for a while. He's kind of stuck with this organization for quite a while because where else is he can't go anywhere because he's in contract, and Cincinnati is really just going to hold on to him as long as he can, because the only reason this team is good is because of this young kid and how great he is part of the reason that this team is very good. But can Cincinnati next year be a playoff organization? And I think we should talk about that. They're developing and they're going to get better, and by the end of the season, they're going to be one of the better teams in the NFL. That's too late from the end of the season. Next season, they're going to come off strong, guys. Trust me on this one. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL come next year. And when they come out of the gates next year, I expect them to be a playoff team. I expect them to somewhat compete for the playoffs. Will they win in the playoffs? Will they win a Super Bowl? No. But being a playoff team for this organization is probably big enough. Being a playoff team for this team is probably big enough just because they're in the playoffs and they're going to be able to do somewhat good. I think it'll be a great game. And it was a close game as well. It's 37-34. That's a close game. But Cincinnati is going to be a playoff team next year, I think. And losing to the Browns is never good, no matter if they're getting better or if they're still okay. I mean, it's still not fun to lose to the Browns. The Browns, though, are 5-2. Not a bad record. The Bengals are 1-5-1, believe it or not, this year. They've had a lot of interesting games. So, I mean, it's... Next week they play the Titans for the Bengals, so it's been pretty crazy. But believe it or not, they've had lots of good years. And I don't know where Google's getting a 5, because they've only tied once, so I think Google's getting a glitch. They have not won a game yet this year, though, so hopefully they can somehow get out of that hole, and we'll see what can happen. But before we say goodbye, like always, it's time to go around the league. And yes, graphics and music. It's always fun when you have that and you add it to the excitement of, well, it's not just another fabulous game. Starts off with the Giants and Eagles on Thursday Night Football. It was 22-21, another 1-point game. The Eagles come up on top. Pretty interesting game there. The Panthers and the Saints, 27-24. The Saints top the Panthers. Bills and the Jets. The Bills they're on a roll, but they're going to beat the Jets 18-10. At least the Jets got to put up some points this week. Battle for Ohio, the Browns beat the Bengals 37-34. Cowboys get crushed by the Washington football team 25-3. Tough loss for them, losing Dak Prescott. Man, it just stinks. Packers versus the Texans. Well, the Packers will win 35-20. The Lions and the Falcons in a great game this week. It's a 1-pointer, 23-22. The Lions come up on top. The Steelers, one of the only 6-0 teams, they beat the Titans 27-24. The Buccaneers beat the Raiders 45-20 in pretty good fashion. The Chiefs and the Broncos won the first snow game of the year. The Chiefs win 43-16. They even took Patrick Mahomes out of that game because they were winning by so much. The Jaguars and the Chargers, what a good game here as well. 10-point game. Chargers come up on top 39-29. 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo's 49ers destroy Cam Newton's Patriots 33-6. Seahawks and Cardinals, the Sunday night showdown, 37-34 in overtime. The Cardinals come up on top. And tonight, tonight, Bears and the Rams face off on Week 7 Monday Night Football. So, enjoying all the games. I hope you have a fabulous day, everyone. Until the next one, peace out.